Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Erica, and in today's video I am bringing you episode 29 of Throwback Thursday. Now of course I got this idea from my dear friend Jan Van. I call her my Janny Boo. I'll link her channel in my description box. She is totally my TBT muse. I think she's at episode like 130, 131, something like that. I mean, she is just killing it. So if you haven't yet gone to Jan's channel to subscribe, I highly recommend doing so. And then of course, I want to give a huge love-filled shout out to my dear friend and subscriber Dawn for being the bestest TBT cheerleader on planet Earth. So last episode, this episode, and the next episode, it's kind of a little series I'm doing here, tutorials for beginners in eyeshadow application. I don't really feel like I've ever necessarily done tutorials per se on my channel. There's a motorcycle outside. Thank you. But when Julie asked me if I had any kind of like tutorials for beginners in eyeshadow, and I was like, I don't. And she's like, well, would you want to be willing to do that? And I was like, you know, I will do that. But the thing is, and I mentioned this the last episode, I'm not a professional makeup artist and I'm not an expert. So I want to say, really emphasize that take what I say here with a big grain of salt, right? Because your eye shape might be different, your eyelids might be different, your skin tone might be different. I mean, there's so many differences that we can all have. And just because I do my makeup a certain way, I don't ever think that you should do your makeup exactly the way I do it, right? I think we're entitled to do whatever we want with makeup. But I just thought it would be fun to do this. And if you get any pearls of wisdom from this little series I'm doing here, then awesome, that's great. And if you don't, well, maybe somebody else out there will give you some pearls. Okay, so for this episode, I thought neutral with a pop of color, because I did a neutral palette last time. This will be the neutral with pops of color, or a pop of color. And then the next episode will be a colorful look. But I thought the Avocado Toast palette from BH Cosmetics would be perfect for neutrals with a pop of color, because we have browns and greens in here. Neutrals, but with some beautiful green shades. And I feel like browns and greens are a great place to start, because they're not super different really in tone. I mean, they are, of course, they're brown and green, but they're still close enough to where I don't think it's super intimidating necessarily. So for this look, what I'm going to be doing is using the browns for the mattes and then the greens for the shimmers. So I will be using Over Easy, Paprika, and Pit, and then I'll be using green juice and extra for the shimmers. I might even use lemon pepper, or maybe even Haas, I think is how you pronounce that. I don't know, I'll figure that out as I'm putting my eye look together, but definitely starting off by putting paprika in my transition area. And the brush that I'm going to be using for this is, let's see here, I think I'll use this one right here. This is a Coastal Scents brush, and I just like the fact that it's more tapered. It just kind of fits very nicely into my transition area. I do have my brows done, just put a little bit of NYX Control Freak Brow Gel and Clear in my brows, and then I have my eye primed in the Juvia's Place Prep Prime Eyeshadow Primer. Okay, so just putting enough on the brush where you can see it on the brush, and I tapped quite a bit of it off because I don't want too much. I'm the type of person that likes to build my eyeshadows rather than going in all serious with it. I just, for the way I apply my eyeshadows, I just like that better. So again, just kind of like last time, I'm just finding that bone right here and just going back and forth, kind of pushing it too onto the lid. And as you can see, it's kind of getting a little bit too light, so I'm going to go back into the pan. I usually go into the pan like 3, 4, 5 times, just depends, just to where I can get it to where you can really see the shadows, and it's not patchy or anything, just very, well, as evenly dispersed as I can get it. That's what I'm going for. And I like this shade of, or shape of brush, because I can get into this area and it's not blowing the shadow up, like clear up to my brow. I don't want to do that. I want to keep it right in the transition area, or crease. I don't know. I never really understand the difference between crease. I mean, I realize the crease is like right here, you know, and the transition's a little higher than the crease, but again, like I've said 1,000 times, I'm not an expert, I'm not a professional makeup artist. So sometimes the terms for things, I'm like, whatever, you know, whatever. I don't think that's super important necessarily. I mean, I don't want to be confusing, but Anyway, so I'm just going to keep applying this until I feel like I've got enough color saturation to where it looks good and it's even, and then I'll move on to another shade. And I do try, I mentioned this in the last video, to get this outer edge a little bit softer, more softly blended, but I'm not always great at that. So that's why I like to use a lighter shade to blend that out, just because I think it looks nicer. I think that looks really nice. So now what I'll do is I'll go into Over Easy and blend that shade out. And for that part of the look, I think I'm just going to use this brush here. It's, you know, kind of fluffy but flat. I think that'll work. And if it doesn't, I can find a different brush, but I think it'll work. So just, again, going into Over Easy, putting enough on the brush where you can see it, but tapping some of it off so it's not too much. And I'm just going to start in this inner part and then work this way across my lid. And you can start in the middle, you can start out here. I mean, it doesn't matter, whatever you want to do. This is what I prefer to do, just because I think it makes the most sense for me. And kind of keep the look a little bit more contained. I'm not quite so haphazard. And these mats are so nice. This is the brunch series, I'm pretty sure. It was this, the blueberry muffin palette, and then what was the other one? Mimosa, I think is what it was called. And these are all really nice. I don't have the Mimosa palette, but I do have this in the blueberry muffin. I have used the blueberry muffin palette a few times on my channel, and I just love it. I actually thought about pulling that palette in too, because it's got the neutrals with the pops of color. But I used that palette not very long ago in a while ago for a Throwback Thursday, and I just thought, let's do something different. And like I said, I think the greens and browns are a great place to start for someone that's just getting into makeup and wants to experiment a little bit with color. It's interesting though, because you know, I talked to a lot of people in the comment section of my videos, of course, and they'll say things like, oh, greens terrify me, or blues terrify me, or reds, or whatever. It's interesting what colors freak us all out, because blues were my big shade that freaked me out at first, and now I love using blue eyeshadows. And then I struggled with pink eyeshadows because I just felt like, I don't know, I can't put pinks on my lower lash line or I look sick. And I don't know, I just thought it looked weird on me, but now I really like pink eyeshadows. So I think if you're worried about a color or it's intimidating to you, I say just dig into it, you know, just play with it, you know. If you're not going anywhere sometimes, just sit down and put green eyeshadows on your lids if you're terrified of greens, and just play, just get some experience. I'm gonna go back into Paprika, just add a little bit more of this in, just so it looks a little nicer. I talked about this in the last episode, that I just kind of go back and forth until I think things are blended nicely and it just looks like it's working together well. And sometimes it takes me longer to do that, sometimes it doesn't, just depends. And the application for this look is going to be basically the same as the last look that I did, or the last episode, but I'm going to use 2 shimmers rather than 1. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. I mean, I could mess around with it some more, but I'm just going to stop so we're not here for 3 days. Now I'm going to put in my outer V area, outer corner, outer V. And for this part of the look, I'm going to use a rougher 13 brush. I really like the shape of this because it's, you know, it's fluffy, but it's kind of a little bit more domed. So it just, I don't know, it fits right there for me. I love it. And Jenny gave me these brushes and they're amazing. I love them. These are natural hair brushes and they're amazing. So now I'm going to put this here and just kind of start smushing it onto the lid here. And very similarly to what I did in my last episode, just to deepen up the outer V, bring it into my crease area. I think I'm actually going to bring it all the way across this time rather than just halfway across. I don't know why, I just think it'll look nice against the greens, you know, just add a little bit of depth in the crease so that the greens really pop. And, you know, I do kind of cover this part of the eye look up with my shimmers anyway, so it's maybe unnecessary, but it's just what I do. I don't really know why, I just do it. And like I mentioned in the last video, I'm not a stickler for a specific type of brush or brand of brush or whatever. I just think if you can find something close to this shape, that's great. And you know, you might look at this and think, I don't like that shape of brush for my outer V. I would never do that. So you know, we all have our own preferences, but I just think this shape is so great for the outer V into the crease, because it's just kind of keeping it contained right where I want it, you know, and that's important for me to. I think the smaller brushes, even though big brushes work too, but I think smaller brushes are so nice because you can keep control of the look better than if you use big honking brushes for stuff like this. And I learned my lesson over the years that, you know, bigger brushes just really weren't working that well for me, because I just didn't like the outcome. So now I'm going to go back in with this brush into Paprika and just take the edge of that darker shade off, just so it looks more blended and doesn't look quite so harsh against the lighter brown shades. And just, you know, lightly kind of go around, kind of circular motions, but kind of like swipey motions. And just get that nicely blended out. And I think the thing I struggle the most with my eye looks a lot of times is right here, because I kind of have a, you know, indentation right there in my face, my eye socket. And so sometimes that part can be tricky for me to blend out, because it's just like it gets like nice and homey comfy right here in that little spot. And so it's like, okay, blend. So I just kind of keep going around in little circles right here just to make sure that that gets blended out. It's not quite so harsh looking, and there isn't like a big huge difference between the darker and the lighter brown. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so then I'm gonna go back one more time into Over Easy, just a teeny tiny bit of this, and just make sure that the outer edge of the shadows is blended softly. That's what I really prefer, is just having a nice soft blend towards the outer part of the look. I've had people describe my eye looks as ethereal, soft, ethereal. And yeah, I just like it to look soft around the outer edge. I don't know, just my preferred method here. Okay, I think that looks really nice. I like it. I think everything's blended nicely. So what I want to do in this look versus what I did in the last episode, is I want to have some depth to the shimmer and then some light to the shimmer. I love how that looks. So I'm going to put extra right here, and then I think what I'm going to do, rather than going into green juice, is I'm going to go into Haas or lemon pepper. I've never used this shade before, so I'm going to use that. So these two shimmers is what I'm going to do. And what I'm going to do also is find a brush that is fluffy but kind of flat too. This is great for putting on shimmers out here. So I'm just going to go into extra, and this shade it's not flaky, but it can provide a little bit of fallout. So to avoid that, I'm going to spray it just a little bit. And that's a very fine mist. It's really a nice setting spray. And I'm going to put this right here. And what can be tricky is matching up the darker shimmer with your outer V shade, because a lot of times I'll have the very stark line right there, and I don't really love how that looks on me. And so that can be a little tricky to learn how to, you know, manage that part of the look. But you just keep practicing, and it'll come to you. It will. And what I want to do, because my eyes are hooded, is I want to take the shimmer up into my crease and a little bit over, because when I open and shut my eyes throughout the day, it's going to transfer up there anyway. And I used to not be very mindful of that, and I'm trying to be more mindful of it so it doesn't look quite so blown up, even though I kind of do have to blow it up anyway, just because my eyes are hooded. And, you know, I am covering up that darker brown shade, but it does, I think, provide some depth to the look that it wouldn't have if I hadn't put that darker brown shade in my crease, you know? And that might not make any sense, but that's why I do it. And I'm just kind of patting it and smushing it onto the lid, and just kind of patting it around this outer area here, just to kind of keep it, I don't know, just what I do. And then I'll go in and fix that up with the darker brown matte. I think that looks really pretty. I think this is my favorite shimmer shade in the palette. So gorgeous. So I'm gonna go into Haas. I think that's how you pronounce that. Put that right here. And for this part of the look, I'm just gonna take a real flat brush, similarly to what I did in the last episode. This is not the same brush, but it's very similar. This is a Doe Color, I don't know. This is 05, and just go into Haas. This is a really pretty like goldy green shade. And I'm gonna spray it. And then what I do is I pull my lid a little bit, because my eyes aren't quite as taut as they once were. And I'm just gonna start applying the shadow, of course. And I wanna bring it up, you know, up over into my crease over a little bit and match it up as high as the other shimmer goes. Like, you'll have them be matched up right here, if that makes sense. So that you don't have it looking wonky when, or I don't have it looking wonky when I apply it. So just kind of go back in and just make sure this is nice and opaque. And these shimmers are very opaque anyway, very buttery, got a lot of nice stickum to them. They're just really awesome. Love this formulation. I miss this formulation from BH. It's a bummer that it's not here anymore. And lots of times what I'll do too is I will go in with my finger just to kind of mush these together a little bit better, these two shimmers. But I don't really feel like I need to do that. I think just using the brush and kind of like feathering it back and forth like this is good enough. I don't think I need to use my finger. And just kind of pulling it over a little bit into that darker green shimmer, just very lightly. And yeah, I think it looks great. I love that. It's beautiful. So let's go back into Pit. And I'm just going to put a little bit more on the brush and just kind of push it into the shimmer a little bit. Not exactly, but just kind of at an angle. I'm just kind of pushing the matte into the shimmer and then kind of feathering it too. Just to kind of take that harsh edge from the shimmer off a little bit if I can. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. I just do my best. Just so that looks a little bit nicer. You can take your shimmer all the way out to your outer V, and I know you will hear people say, "Don't do that." You can do that. It doesn't matter. I do it all the time. And you can use all shimmers out of a palette. You can use all mattes out of a palette. Doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want. I don't think there's rules to that. There are theories to makeup, sure. Like there are certain things that you wouldn't do because it doesn't make any sense, even though I still see people doing it, and I'm like, okay. But yeah, I think you got to find your happy spot in makeup, and that's up to you to find it, not anyone else. And that looks great. I don't think I need to mess around with that anymore. I will go back into Paprika, the shade here, and just kind of go around the shimmers and just make sure that that looks good. And then just make sure this outer edge, outer V area is blended again because I added some more of that darker brown. And then I think I'll be done, probably. Just keep adding a little bit more. So very lightly kind of going around the edge of the shimmer here with the very tip of the brush. Okay, and then I am going to go back into Over Easy, that kind of yellowy brown, and then just blend one more time, and then I'm done. Yeah. Okay, I am done. I think that looks really nice. It's very similar in application to what I did in the last episode. I just added another shimmer rather than just the one. So what I'll do is go clean up a little bit of the fallout, do my other eye, the rest of my face, and I'll come back. So this is my finished look. I really like how it turned out. It was really fun to pull the palette out again because it's one of my favorite palettes from BH Cosmetics. And I do think it's perfect for the neutral with the pop of color. So I'll show you the palette again, but let me show you everything else I put on my face today. I don't have a primer on, just put on the Maybelline New York Dream BB Fresh BB Cream in medium. This is my new bottle or tube, whatever this is. I finally used up all of the product in my other one. So that's great. I didn't think that was ever gonna happen because it just kept going and going and going. For my powder, I used the CoverGirl Clear Professional in Translucent. And then for my blush, I used the Bellini palette, or Bellini blush palette from BH Cosmetics. And I use this shade right here called Life's a Peach. I just thought peach would work well with this eye look. And then for my mascara, I used the Gifted from Tarte. God, love it. And then on my lips, I used the Friday the 13th lipstick from Glamlight. And there's probably a shade name, but it's not on here. I don't know. I could have looked that up, but I didn't. And love this. And I just wanted something, I don't know, soft, neutral. So I went with that. Now let's talk about the eyeshadow palette. I did mean to do my lower lash lines today in this video. So let's shoot for the next episode. I will just you know, remember hopefully and do my lower lash lines. I just used this pit across the entire lower lash lines. I just used a brush like this with this little angled edge to put that, you know, across. And then I used just a little bit of a, well, I'm trying to find something similar to this type brush. And I used paprika just a little bit and just kind of blew it out a little bit. That was it. And then for my inner corners, I used Avocado, this beautiful bright kind of champagne shade. And I also used Holy Moly to line my upper lids. And I just used a brush like this too. I put it in with my dirty brushes and it's covered, so, but similar type thing. And I just kind of started in the outer corner and just worked across and just kind of angled it down so that it was more precise towards the front part of the lid. And I just enjoy this palette. I do. It's so wonderful. The mattes are so lovely. They're blendable. They all work really well together. The shimmers I used, this one is my favorite extra. I just think it's so gorgeous. It's that beautiful, deep metallic green. And the formulation is so nice. And Haas, I think that's how you pronounce it. I've said that like 40 times. Worked really well with this. I'd never used that shade before. And, you know, sure, it's maybe more gold and maybe that's not enough of a pop of color, but I do think that this green definitely brought that into the look. And I could have used that, but I like these two together. I'm definitely going to recreate this look at some point because I think it's really nice. And you can do a neutral look with a pop of color in it and not be overwhelmed, not have it be too much. You know, just a nice pop of color, the green on the lids. And so that was really what I wanted to show you, is that it doesn't have to be super intimidating. It doesn't have to be super over the top. You can start with, I don't know, just maybe easier pops of color. And some of you might not like greens, or you don't think greens are easy, but I'm hoping that maybe this type of application or shade combination maybe makes you feel differently about that, and you'd be willing to give this a try if you're just getting started and you're wanting to focus on color, but you're nervous about it. Because I think browns with any color really, you know, kind of gives you the neutral base, but then you can have some fun with the colorful shimmers. So let me know what you think of this look. Let me know if you're going to try out a look like this. If you're just starting out, let me know if you have this palette or something similar to it. There's lots of brown and green color stories out on the market, and I don't even think this palette's available anymore, which I don't like to necessarily show palettes that you can't go out and get right away, but I think that's dupable. I definitely think that that palette is dupable. And I will be doing a colorful look in episode 30. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your life to sit down and watch this video. If you're new here and you enjoyed what you saw, please consider subscribing, smash the like button, and of course, comment down below in the comment section. I love to chat with you guys there. If you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. I cannot wait to see you guys again in my next video, but in the meantime, please take very good care of yourself. Be well, safe, happy, and I will see you soon. Bye.
Drop it.